Okay, welcome. I'm live for a lesson on the biggest block to manifestation and alignment with your purpose work. You might be able to guess what that is from the description or from some of the emails that I've sent out. So I'll break the ice by ruining it with a little spoiler now. It's perfectionism. And you might have guessed it, and very closely related to that is procrastination. They're interlinked, they're brothers and sisters because one of them is down to the other for the most part. When we're perfectionists, often what happens is we procrastinate, and both of these things prevent us from stepping into our highest version, prevent us from really aligning with our purpose work in this world, prevent us from manifesting the things that we desire. And if you're anything like me, if you're a light worker, if you're a soul aligned being that wants to make a positive change on this planet, you know that at the heart of it, that perfectionism or that procrastination is because you care, but you've also got a sneaky feeling that it might be to do with your inner child or some shadow work that you still need to do. And just finding a deeper, more self assured, confident version of yourself. And this is going to not only help you fulfill your mission, your purpose, manifest better in your life, but also just feel in your everyday experience of life like you're aligned, right? Feeling confident is a beautiful feeling, whether the manifestations come in or not, whether you complete the big shiny purpose work or not, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel like your highest expression. And this is what makes life enjoyable. So I want to share with you a little bit of a practical task that you can do at the end of this little lesson. So do watch until the end because it's the embodiment, it's the actions that we take that really create that new identity. We can do all the learning in the world, but if we don't take those actions, we're not going to be able to truly manifest those changes. So below this video, you should be able to see that there is a link to register for the recorded videos of this challenge, where there's some further tasks that you can do, and I'm also going to give you some information at the end of this video. And if you complete all three of those recorded videos and the embodiment tasks that are inside of that challenge recording, then you're in the prize draw. So I'm going to be announcing the challenge prize winner on August the 8th. So that actually is Lionsgate portal. So it's quite a nice alignment for manifestation. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you can manifest in your experience of life with these tools that I'm going to give you. And before I share with you the lesson slides, I do want to share a bit more on why this is close to my heart. So I grew up as a mixed race individual in a very white community. It was like the 90s when I was growing up. I didn't have my dad around. He's black. My mum is white. I didn't have anyone on my dad's side of the family around. So when I was growing up, I felt very, very different. I felt like I didn't fit in. It wasn't that the kids at my school weren't nice, but I just didn't look like any of them. But alongside that, I also didn't look like my own mum, right? And this creates that feeling as a child. This is when our subconscious mind is open to that or open to it's being programmed, right? It's in a brainwave state where it's creating the template of how our belief structure is created for the rest of our lives, the template for what we're going to create in our lives moving forwards. And in those formative years, I was getting a lot of reflections back in my external reality that I didn't fit in, that I wasn't chosen, that I wasn't enough. And that then, in my later years, in my teenage years, in my early 20s, it meant that I was an extreme perfectionist. Not just that, that wasn't the only symptom of my inner child being in pain. Alongside it, substance abuse, many things. But a huge part of my struggle was struggling with extreme perfectionism. And I mean intense. So I would I would be so attached to things needing to be perfect that It would take me a long time to get ready to leave the house, but even if one trouser leg was slightly shorter than the other, it would ruin my whole day. I wouldn't leave the house, or if I did leave the house, I would have extreme emotional anxiety. This also resulted in me changing my hair so many times, wrecking my hair with hair dye. Nothing against, doing things that make you feel good. I'm an advocate for that. Whatever you want to do, however you want to express yourself, dyeing your hair if you want to get surgery, whatever it is, like, I think all of it has its place. But when it's coming from this place of needing things to be perfect, what will often happen is it will never be enough, because it's got nothing to do with what the external looks like. It's about your internal space. But this also, as I said at the beginning, having it related to procrastination, it also meant that there was many things in my life that I wanted to do, many changes that I wanted to create, and I would never get those things off of the ground because I was already holding myself back for fear of failure, for fear of not being good enough, because I needed everything to be perfect. I couldn't fail anything. I never took action on the things that really meant something to me. And one weird thing, I've shared this a little bit in previous content. If you're on my email list, I sent out an email about this last year. That it took me, I think, 3 years. Like, my passport had expired, and it took me 3 years to actually just fill out the form and pay, I think, a small amount of money. I was working at the time, so I could pay, I think it was like £60 at the time, to get a new passport, because I had that desire. I wanted to travel, but it took me 3 years to get a passport. And can you see, it wasn't really about actually filling out the form. It was the fear of the new identity on the other side of that, the fear of doing something that was a little bit scary and not getting it right, or it failing. So I procrastinated. And if we have the courage to look at ways to take action despite these fears of not being enough, and we have the courage to do the inner work that can help heal or transmute the pain of our inner child. I want to come away from saying heal so much. My spirit guides, my connection to spirit tells me often for saying healing, but transmute that pain of our inner child. When we have the courage to do that, we're going to have such a more beautiful expression of our truth, our true identity. Because my little inner child, there was nothing wrong with her. She was beautiful, just in her own divinity, in her own imperfect perfection. And so it's a beautiful thing to have the courage to do this work. So I'm going to share with you some slides to go a little bit deeper on this lesson. So the signs of procrastination, perfectionism, and also some action steps that you can take. So just bear with me a moment. I'm going to share the screen. So the antidote to perfectionism. And if you're new to me, if you're here on YouTube and you haven't done any of these lessons or challenges with me, previously I was doing this over on Facebook, but I'm having to embrace imperfectionism at the moment, because from the beginning of this year, my whole Facebook account has been blocked, or my messages blocked, my comments blocked, my live videos blocked. So this is a little bit impromptu. Originally, I was going to be sharing this on Facebook. So I'm embracing the imperfectionism of bringing it over to here. But I'm always happy to share these teachings wherever it is. So the antidote to perfectionism, Oh, it's not showing. Let me see. Okay. So whether you're here on the live or the replay, you can comment below whether perfectionism, procrastination has held you back, and how has it held you back so far? Which one do you suffer from the most? And how has it affected you? Do let me know. I read all of the comments. So why the need to be perfect? So I did touch on it a little bit in my own story. this fear of not being enough, right? This fear of never being seen in our true light, feeling like we're never going to be confident enough to express our true voice, right? This can also come down to having parents that were really strict and wanted you to be a certain way or to achieve certain things to be worthy in their eyes. We have many different internal reasons for needing to be perfect, but it does come down to a few blanket things that we'll go a little bit deeper into. But I want to share with you this quote that I think is super powerful and hits the nail on the head. Perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It's a shield. It's a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact it's the thing that's really preventing us from flight. Brené Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. So Brené Brown, definitely very well known as a guide for the inner work. And I think this one is just beautiful. Perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It's a shield. It's a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact it's the thing that's really preventing us from flight. So why does it show up? Fear of not being enough, fear of being judged, wanting to be perceived as good, fear of what others think, desire for excellence, but why? And I think this is one of the things, like if you have a job interview and they ask you like, what is your bad trait? Oftentimes, what we'll say in the job interview is, oh, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist. Like, it's not that bad. We're not really realizing the implications of perfectionism. Fiona's here. Hi, Fiona. Good to see you. Yours is definitely procrastination. Yeah, it plagued me for so many years of my life. And it's not that it ever really goes away, but it's just having those tools in place to be able to overcome it with more grace, I think. Fiona, can you let me know in the chat on the YouTube, can you actually see me or just hear my voice? Because when I look on the YouTube, I can still just see the cover screen. But I don't know, I'm not used to doing it on here. So what are the implications of perfectionism? Again, you can let me know what you think in the chat, whether you hear the live or the replay. But I would say for me, there's so many things in my life that I would have achieved earlier if it wasn't for my perfectionist nature, but also just this general feeling of not being at peace with your own self, right? When your mind is so busy with these anxious thoughts of needing to be a certain way, you don't enjoy your own life. And this is, I think, one of the biggest implications. So overall, we've touched on it already. Procrastination is oftentimes it's down to this fear of failure, this fear of not getting it right. It is very connected to perfectionism. Stagnant energy or feeling anxious or just feeling low energy can be at the root of why we're depressed often, because there's ideas that we want to take action on. There's things that we want to do in life, and we're just allowing that energy to stagnate because we're procrastinating, because we need things to be perfect before we take action or even dare to put our voice, our message, our creations out there. And it's repelling your manifestation. So along my manifestation journey, this is something I learned a lot later on. So in my early 20s, I'd already learned about manifestation, but in my early 20s, that was when perfectionism was plaguing me the most. And if I'd learned this earlier, maybe I could have made a difference in the world earlier, or a difference in my own life earlier. So one of my favorite books on manifestation is Reality Transurfing by Vladimir. I think, I can't remember the name completely. I never remember it, but I'll put it in the comments. I'll link the book. And in there, he talks about dropping importance. And when we make something really important, we put it on a pedestal. Like, my art must be perfect before I put it out. My hair must look an exact shade of this color that I want. My trousers must be absolutely the same length. Otherwise, people are going to think this of me. I'm not looking my best. How can I leave the house? If we put all of that on a pedestal, and oftentimes what we're putting on a pedestal is other people's judgments, other people's thoughts, other people's interpretations of our creations, what we're actually doing is making the manifestation of it so important that we're repelling what we truly want. We're creating excess potential, is what they call it in Reality Transurfing. And excess potential is just swinging the potential of what you want in the opposite direction. It's giving energy to what you don't want, because if you already had your manifestation, for example, if my manifestation was for everyone to love my art so much, right, then I wouldn't be worrying about it needing to be perfect, because my manifestation is already here. Everybody already loves my art. Nobody is judging my trousers for being different lengths. So it wouldn't be important. And when we put things on a pedestal, we repel. We repel what we truly want. When we're really attached with things needing to be perfect, underneath it is doubt. Doubt that we're going to be accepted for what we are. Doubt that our creations will be good enough. And when we have that doubt, we're not in manifestation mindset, are we? No, we're in the exact opposite of it. We're already manifesting that it's not good enough, just by being in this energy of putting things on a pedestal, needing things to be perfect for fear of judgment. So what can we do? So the law of diminishing return, not always talked about in terms of manifestation. The law of diminishing return is often talked about in business. So for example, we have a chef that runs their own kitchen, and at first they're running their business and it's just them in the kitchen baking their cakes, right? And then they hire another member of staff, and they're making more money because they can make double the amount of cakes. Then they hire a third number of staff, and already again they're making more money. They've got to this point where they've hit the peak for how big the kitchen is. And then they hire another member of staff, and they get to 4 members in that kitchen. But the kitchen is too small. There's not enough equipment. They're getting in each other's way. Maybe they start arguing. And so at that point, at that tipping point, this is when the business no longer makes more money. Maybe it starts making less, or it's just ticking over. It can often get worse. This is the diminishing return. So you're putting more and more and more effort in, you're putting more and more staff in, and there gets a point, there's a tipping point where it does the opposite of what you want. And this is the exact same for our creations, for our art. For example, if I'm writing a book or I'm painting a picture, there is a point of that piece of creation where I'm going to hit the law of diminishing return. There is a point of creation where I can't create anymore without making it worse, right? And so we have to recognize this energy in our own lives, not just in art, but just in our own being, energetically, in taking actions. There's never going to be a point where it's absolutely perfect. We're always going to need it to be a little bit less than perfect. And actually, what you don't realize is when you make it a little bit less than perfect, probably that's the best it's going to be, because they'll get a point where actually you make it worse. And I'm getting back into art now, but I was painting a few years ago, and I started to notice that, like, you'd obsess over a painting, and then suddenly you're just correcting this bit and you're correcting this bit, and you look around, you're like, oh, it was so much better half an hour ago. I should have stopped half an hour ago. So this leads me to our next action step. First of all, we want to be aware of the law of diminishing return. And then what we can do is it 70% done? Ask yourself, is it 70% good enough? All right, put it out into the world. And I often get this with things I put out in the world, and it shows me who's still holding their own shadow, because we judge in others what we fear in ourselves. So sometimes I'll put an email out with a spelling mistake, I'll put a post out with a spelling mistake. Sometimes I put courses out, they're not perfect, but they're still filled with love and passion, and someone will pull me up on it. Oh, you left a spelling mistake here. Oh, this link's not right. And it's because I'm allowing the 70% rule, because if I didn't, that course would not be out there. If I didn't, the email would not be sent, or I'd be obsessing over it. It would take me 3 years to create anything. 70% rule. Is it 70% done? Get into the habit of just letting it be. Just let it get out there. And this is leading me to the final action step here. We can embrace this. It's like exposure therapy, basically. When we want to get to this point of 70% rule, noticing the law of diminishing return, feeling more free in our lives, what we actually want to do is embrace being imperfect on purpose. And not even 70%, I mean doing things badly on purpose. Like, for example, singing a bad song and just posting it online. For example, wearing your clothes backwards and going out for the whole day. And just allowing your nervous system to recognize that when you do that, you don't die. Actually, oftentimes what it leads to is connection, or laughter, or fun, or joy in your life. And this is why there's a little kid there, because kids know this. They play, they make messy art, they're not bothered about what anyone else thinks, and they have the most joy. It's those times of our lives where we're not thinking about, we're not conscious and aware of other people's perspectives and judgments on us. So we are more free. And the more we can do that in our adult life, again, the more enjoyment we're going to have, and the more things we'll create. Perfect people don't exist. The key to real progress, happiness, and connection is authenticity. People connect with authentic, they don't connect with perfect. So when we get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's confidence that empowers us to be imperfect on purpose, right? To put out a bad song on social media and just let it be. Confident people, they're never perfect. They're just embracing who they truly are. They're taking action, they're expressing themselves. And oftentimes what happens is you get into a heart-mind coherence, or a flow state. And this is when the best creations happen, because when we're connecting the mind and the heart, this is like a God state. And so often what we're doing when we're in perfectionism is we're all in the brain. We're not allowing our heart, our joy to flow. And so question that you can often ask yourself is, am I being loving in this moment? Am I being loving of my own self? Am I being loving of my creations? Because our creations can't prosper in this world without us sending love into them. And this is the same in relationships, right? Any relationship that we have, if we're always constantly nitpicking, telling them they need to be better, criticizing, the relationship doesn't flourish. This is the same for anything that you're writing, painting, creating, videos that you're making. Fill them with love. Let your heart flow through it. Let there be a relationship of love with it, and you're going to open up that flow state. And we've got to take action. We've got to make sure that we're taking steps towards our goals. So how can we be more confident? How can we step into this identity? We can visualize ourselves. So one technique that I like to use is getting somebody in my life that I'm already inspired by, that maybe already has what I next desire in my life. And I visualize stepping into their body. I imagine they're standing in front of me. I step into them. I try on that feeling like I'm wearing a little outfit of them. And then I step back into my own body and I just bring that essence with me. Also, standing a little bit taller, right? Allowing a smile to be on your face, loosening up your body, doing somatic movement, because the body's so connected to the mind. This can help us be more confident. If we're slouching, right? If we're really stiff and tight, this isn't translating to our mind that we're confident. We can use the body as that anchor to step into more of that confidence. I mentioned it at the beginning, but dropping importance. So the reason I've got the dinner table here is there's another book that I love called Cybernetics. And this one talks about when you want to be more confident, it's not about putting on a persona, it's more about remembering that it's not important. And so also related to the teachings in reality transurfing about releasing excess potential, dropping importance. So what you can imagine, maybe you've got a speech to do, or a meeting to go to, or a job interview, or you're about to paint a piece of art. What you can imagine is that you're at the table with your mum and dad, and or if you don't get on with your mum and dad, like your best friend, like someone that you feel really relaxed around, and it doesn't matter if you ugly cry in front of them, doesn't matter if you're geeky or goofy, there's someone that you don't have to mask around, and you imagine that you're at dinner table with them, and keep that energy in your body and allow this to be in the energy of the interview, when you're making the video, when you're doing the painting, letting go. Like there's some people in our lives where it just doesn't matter. They don't care if you do a bad piece of art. They don't care if you stumble over your words when you make your speech. Okay. And this is helping you to allow that energy of flow. And then being in the moment. So often when we're not confident, the reason why is because we're thinking of an imaginary bad future, or we're thinking about past mistakes and failures, and this doesn't allow us to be in our most confident identity. So if you can be in the moment, if you can be present and aware in the very moment that you are, just think about the next words that you need to say, just think about the next brush stroke on your canvas. This is how you allow more flow and you become naturally confident. Confidence is being in the moment as your true self. So, final little quote for you here: you can't hate yourself into change, love yourself into greatness. You cannot hate yourself into change, love yourself into greatness, by Emma Lovewell. Right? I said it already in the presentation. We cannot get there by more criticism. We cannot get there with more doubt. We just got to allow love to flow into the things that are already working. So action step: share something imperfectly on purpose and do it today. Don't delay, do not procrastinate. Again, it's about that embodiment, stepping in to the feeling that it's already here right now. Stepping into that manifestation mindset. My creations are already accepted, celebrated. I'm already my most confident identity. I'm that confident identity right now. So I'm going to step into it. I'm going to imagine it right now, and I'm going to take those actions. So again, like I said at the beginning, you're going to find there's a link below to the recorded part of this challenge. And in there is the link to sharing in my Facebook group to practice. But you could also share something on your own social media: an imperfect song, imperfect piece of art, imperfect piece of writing. If none of these are lighting you up, one of my favorite little backup ones, I said it already in the presentation, is wear your clothes backwards for the day. And don't say anything. Don't tell anyone why you're doing it. Just do it and see how you feel by the end of the day. Your nervous system will thank you, right? Our body so often is in this fight or flight response to that fear of being different, being rejected. But once we do these little actions and we prove to the body, hey, nothing bad happened to me when I did this, the more you're going to be able to take new actions in your life and step more into your most confident identity. All right, so I'm hoping it's streamed, because I can still see just the title screen on here, but yeah, still getting used to YouTube. But thank you for joining, whether you're here on the live or the replay, and I will see you soon. All right, bye.